Pete Souza joins of the Pete Souza Show, but we're here to talk about another Pete. That's Pete Rose, among many others, now being reinstated by Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred put it out yesterday that basically it's a lifetime ban and these guys have died. So Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, the rest of the Black Sox players, and a couple other, I think it's a list of 17 guys who have been banned for life by MLB in the Baseball Hall of Fame, are now eligible. They're not being put in just yet. That's going to be somebody else's problem, not Rob Manfred's. That's going to be somebody else's problem to see if these guys get in. Pete, we talked a lot about Pete Rose around the time he died. Your reaction to him being eligible for the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm disappointed that the Menendez boys are going to smell freedom before Pete Rose gets into the Hall of Fame. If he does, they won't vote till December of 27. My reaction was too late. He's dead. But also when that was my initial reaction of frustration. But then when you really sit back and I take my Phillies fandom out of it and my, sports mania that can make me view things through a cloudy perspective. He shouldn't have gotten in the first place. He was a real piece of shit. And he was a champion and a winner on the field, but his behavior off of it was deplorable. And here's why I say it's deplorable. Like gambling, yeah, okay, no huge deal. Gambling on your team, like pretty big deal, right?
Massive, yes.
And like I understand the initial banning, but where Pete totally screwed up, it's just like we see in the court of law. Like the cover up is sometimes worse than the crime itself, and the way that he handled himself in the wake of this magnificent error that he made in judgment, and maybe it was brought on by addiction, which, by the way, can get you a little more grace, okay?
Yep.
No, in the face of all that, he refused to be a human being. He had to be a hard-headed athlete and take the same skills that made him so successful in baseball, and clearly a failure walking around with human beings in life. The stuff, like he continued to deny it, Cam, until his dying day that he bet on the Reds as a player or a manager. And that's been uncovered, dude. ESPN, there's mountains of evidence that show that he bet on the Reds when he was a manager and a player manager. So you check both those boxes. He should, by the way, he'll never get in. I don't think
you don't think so? Okay.
No. I don't think it's the same reason we don't have Barry Bonds is eligible.
Yep,
like he's not in, your boy Clemens, same deal. Like they're not getting in. So why this guy, I think what Pete Rose did was worse than what those guys did. I mean, the betting on your team, like I really don't care. Like you can rationalize it any way you want. If you have a pitcher that you're throwing in game 2 of a series, that you're throwing him extra innings because you bet on your team to win this game, like a middle reliever, a bridge guy, and then tomorrow maybe you can't use him as much because you had
or you're overusing him.
Yeah, that's really, really messed up. And so I think he deserved to be held accountable, and he completely botched the aftermath, where I think he would have been in the Hall of Fame long ago if he said, yeah, I got a problem with gambling. I got to clean it up. I can't believe what I did. I throw myself upon the mercy of Major League Baseball's court, and would hope I could be allowed back in and do some public speaking. Look at Michael Vick, dude. Like,
it's a good example.
Michael Vick was on. Yeah, I mean, like people kind of like that dude now, and what he did was abhorrent.
Absolutely. I think this thing sucks. Like, maybe it's an old man boomer take. I don't think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. And again, it's left up to other people whether he's actually going to get in. I don't think he should be eligible. And the couple of problems I have with this, first and foremost, like baseball can be hypocritical and it's really old school. But at the end of the day, baseball only asks a few things of you to not do, right? Like baseball has people who have been in prison. They've had non-performance enhancing drug problems. They can be whatever religion they want, whatever creed they want, wherever they want to be from. And that's obviously how it should be. But the things that you can't do performance enhancing drugs, and you can't bet on baseball. You can't be with gamblers when you play baseball. Like, that is the very integrity of not just this sport, but any sport. Like, you can't do that. That's where sports that's screwing a lot of people out of a lot of money and out of a lot of other stuff. Okay. When you infringe upon that. And that's the first thing I hate. Like, I mean, shit, man. Steve Carlton, one of the great pitchers of all time, thinks that a group of 12 Jews runs the entire world. He's in the Hall of Fame. We'll allow that. Okay. It's weird, but we'll allow it. But if you're betting on your team, on or against or on other teams, I don't give a shit. Like, that's where we draw a line. In all facets of life, you've got to draw a line. Josh Hamilton, great story, man. At times, it's taken another downward turn. But, drug problem, alcohol problem, he gets clean, he becomes a star player again. Like, baseball will embrace that. They're not going to embrace you betting on your own team, especially when you're the manager. Like, that's never going to fly. Whether you bet on them or against them, that, as you pointed out, like, there's still no good in that. And who knows how deep this whole thing got. The other thing is this. In the statement by Major League Baseball, they basically said, Pete Rose is dead. Shoeless Joe Jackson is dead. They can't hurt the integrity of the game anymore, which is why they were being suspended. That doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why you thought it was odd, because it makes no sense. First off, that's not what this was for. This is a punishment. This is a punishment for doing something wrong. Okay? I don't know what the comp is for that, but it's so weird how baseball is so nostalgic. We still look at the records of Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, these guys that played 50 and 100 years ago. But now that Pete Rose is dead, we can forget about that he gambled, right? We can forget that he gambled on his own team. Like, what are you talking about?
I think that reading between the lines there, and I could barely read, so that's impressive.
This is good. It's good for me.
It seems as though they were like, he served his punishment. He's dead now. Like, we can't hurt him anymore. That's the way I took it.
And that would be a better statement to just say that. I mean, I still wouldn't agree, but like that makes you look like less of a pussy to just make that the statement. Hey, he served his time. Right? And Pete Rose did this, and this, right? He's the all-time home run or hit king. He's won a couple World Series, a franchise icon. You want to throw that out there? Fine. I'm not going to agree still, but that's a better reasoning.
And, the president has been involved in this.
Yes. I think that's what's changed here.
I do. I think he's put some pressure on Manfred. And I think, Rob Manfred, it's actually kind of like.
For what?
He's not going to get – Manfred knows he probably won't get in. So, but he kind of – it takes the onus
covers
off
his
him.
Ass, covers his ass a little bit. He'll stop getting asked about it.
Yeah, he'll stop getting asked about it, and whatever he needs from the president, he'll get. I mean, it's –
And I wonder,
regardless of what you think about the guy in office, he's an extremely powerful man.
He sure is. I don't know why he's in on this Pete Rose thing. I don't get it. But this is what I find interesting, because when I saw this news, the first thing I thought was, I don't like it. I think Pete Rose was a piece of shit. I don't think he deserves this, right? I think he did plenty, gamble on baseball, statutory stuff, the crime stuff he was into. Not being an overall great person doesn't help either.
He was a dick about it.
Yes.
No contrition.
So all of that, Pete Rose is not a sympathetic figure in my eye. And yet, the second name on that list, Shoeless Joe Jackson, I think we all think differently about, right? Even though we don't, we didn't see him play or anything. This was 100 years ago. But for 100 years, it's been, the Joe Jackson story's been a sad one, right? Here was this guy, this dumb, illiterate kid from a farm in South Carolina, couldn't even sign his own name, and he doesn't know what's going on. He's coerced into throwing the World Series, which I believe there actually is some truth to that, even as an adult. I believe there's some truth to that. But then I wonder, Pete, is that how people are going to think of Pete Rose in 100 years? We thought of Joe Jackson. I don't know about you growing up, but me growing up watching 8 Men Out, reading the book, and being around a lot of big time baseball fans, it was a sad story. This was a guy who should have been a Hall of Famer. He was one of the best players of his era. Very nice guy, good for the sport, and he kind of gets thrown in this whirlwind of throwing the World Series, doesn't know any better. Is that how people are going to think about Pete Rose later on? Look at all the great things he did for the game.
Joe Jackson a lot of grace, dude.
I am. I probably am. That's the thing. I'm probably throwing him.
Betting. He threw games, as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
And
And he
it's
admitted
funny,
to it, by the way. I mean,
but you know, it's funny, Cam, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the power of like a strong motion picture, right? Like,
yeah,
he was a sympathetic figure in that
DB
movie.
Sweeney, yeah,
Yeah, DB Sweeney.
and Ray Liotta in Field
Yeah.
of Dreams as a right-handed hitting Shoeless Joe Jackson plays him as kind of a sympathetic figure. But you're absolutely right. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's like I've grown up feeling sorry for Shoeless Joe, but like I don't give a shit what his batting average is in the World Series. At the end of the day, he agreed to throw the World Series. He accepted money to throw the World Series.
But it is clear the way that he's treated in the court of public opinion following this, that he was apologetic, right? Like he became a sympathetic like figure in his remaining life, you know, like Pete Rose is like when Pete Rose gets a question in Philadelphia from a female reporter about statutory rape and he calls the girl babe and is demeaning to her on the one day that he's invited back to Philly to celebrate with the rest of his teammates, like he finds a way not only to make a major transgression, but also make a day about his team, about him. Like, there's just like an insane component, and just like I've wanted to like Pete Rose so many times in this whole thing. Like when I was a kid, I vilified Bart Giamatti, right? Like because I didn't know any better. I mean, you didn't
even watch Sideways because his son was in it. And
I love.
I remember that.
That is one of my favorite movies. But no, do you know, as a kid growing up, you want to talk about stress? Okay, it's August. I perceive it to be August, at least in my memory, of 1989. I got like 15 books I didn't read and all these book reports coming up that I got to figure out a way.
We're also going to be hit with the ruler
to throw this shit together, right? Pete Rose is actively getting banned from baseball, and the Iran-Contra hearings are taking over like my television set during the summer. Like it was a stressful time for this young, 11, 12-year-old. Yeah. So
Fight the Power, baby. Public Enemy.
Yes.
89, the number. Another summer.
Fear the Black Planet. I mean, it was in the works. All this stuff's happening. No, but it was. I hated what happened to Pete Rose, and I've wanted to see it rectified, and I just, it's not rectified now. It never will be, because when he had the opportunity to really make a change, ask for forgiveness, he never owned it all the way. And unfortunately, I would have to imagine the person who was imprisoned by all that was Pete Rose. I mean, when you have a secret and you're not telling the truth and it's that big of a secret and you lie about it every day.
Take it to your grave.
Yeah, it takes a toll on you, I got to imagine. He's probably right next to OJ somewhere.
Probably, yeah. Looking up.
Anyway. He's trying to figure out the killers.
Yeah, he's still trying to connect the dots there. In a weird way, it's almost like the Bizarro story of the guy who's drowning and he's like, God will save me. You remember that story? And all these lifeboats come out and he says, God will save me. Yeah. And God tells him, I sent you all these lifeboats. Yeah. That's like it's like the opposite, right? Of like, we want to like Pete Rose. We invite him back after all these years to Philadelphia. This is his chance. And he fucking blows it again. And it's like, I gave you saw his career. You saw his post career. What led you to believe that he was going to make the most of this day the way you wanted him to?
And what a complicated guy, because he's such a character. Like there was a lot about him to like. Like up until he died, he continued to speak publicly. He commanded thousands of people to come to see him, speak and then tell stories with some of his former teammates, and then of course. He also signed autographs for days and made tons of money. Like people like the outlaw side of Pete Rose, and I did too, to a degree. But when you really get down to it and drink some truth serum, there's no way around it. He screwed up, and he screwed up again and again and again, and it really affected his legacy. He did it to himself all the way around.
And I know we're splitting hairs on it, but all right. And I'm not a big proponent of the steroid guys getting in. I would much rather have them in the Hall of Fame than Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Like, I'm sorry. To me, it's like there's still that element of, you juiced out of your mind, but you still had to hit the ball. Like in this one, you're doctoring the outcome of games. Like it's just I don't like it at all. Anyway,
I understand the steroids way more than I do the gambling, but that speaks to the addiction part of it. And Pete never was able to own and take accountability for if that was an addiction. For that, he fought that till his death. He didn't said he wasn't addicted to gambling. You know.
Yeah. Pete, I want to keep you around for one more thing, but real quick, guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, and it helps us get towards the path of 4,000 subscribers. We're talking nothing but Boston sports every day. Check out the other videos on the channel. Find us live on YouTube, high noon Eastern time, and wherever you get your podcasts.